that was Habakkuk. This is part 2. Part 1 was just looking at Habakkuk chapter 2, verses 2, 3, and 4. And remember, it goes back to Habakkuk saying to Yahuwah, why do you allow the wicked, the evil, the betrayers to devour the righteous? And Yahweh says, write these words so that people can take the enthusiasm from the heart that what he said is the reality, and that they will live by believing in what these letters are saying. So it's not just, let's make up a gospel, let's make up an interpretation, let's make up a storyline, let's just believe, and I'm not saying it's not true, but let's just believe that he loves us so much that he'll forgive us for our sins because Jesus died on the cross, so that when our enemies kill us, we get to go to heaven. Okay, but I keep saying that at the end of the curse, at the end of the 2030-year curse, we have a shot at coming back to the terms of the covenant, which are the Moed, the same story that's in the Moedim, if we know how to read them, which is why I was referencing the talk back in 2017 at Lake Erie, where Yahweh is faithful to those who trust in him. Different than having faith, but it's trust. Bet, I believe is what the word is, betoch. Let's jump ahead to verse 14 of Habakkuk 2. Ki ta melo haaretz, because the fullness of the earth, la da'at, according to knowledge. Aleph tav kavod Yahweh, when that word kavod, kaf bet vav dalet, glory, weighty glory of Yahweh, ka ma'im, like water, yod kaf samik vav. Well, kaf samik is throne. Kaf samik hey is to be covered. Al im is over the sea. So what he's saying is the glory, or the kavod, the knowledge, the glorious knowledge of Yahuwah will cover the earth like water covers over the sea. Water is the sea. But the word earth isn't just earth, as we said earlier. It's I'm going to run. I'm going to do this eagerly. Do what eagerly? Yahweh stuff. Well, it hasn't happened. Hence, when I said the guy in Eugene that just said he's lost all his friends, everybody hates him. Open it up for those who missed it, saying, maybe I should just go eat some worms. Tying this whole thing all together, saying, what? This hasn't happened. This can't be the end of the world. This hasn't happened. This has to happen. What has to happen? That the kavod of the da'at of Yahuwah Milov covers over fully the earth. What we are talking about, what we are onto, is just the beginning. The first drop of a tremendous tempest storm is this study. That's verse 14. In verse 20 it says, Vayodhe behayakal kadoshu has me feneka kaharetz. It's translated, Yahweh is in his holy temple, silence, hush. Before him, all the earth. Oh, okay, he's in his holy temple. Let's all be quiet. That's the way it's translated. It's like, okay, well, what do you do with that? Well, the word for temple is hayakal. Bet hey is in the Yod Kaf Lamed. Well, those three letters are in sequence order again. So I ran through earlier the first 10 letters, and here this are letters number 10, 11, and 12. Yod Kaf Lamed. Kaf Lamed is the word for all, each, any, or every. So that's fully. That's the full capacity. The word Yod Kaf Lamed means power, the capacity to contain it all, to prevail. So for Yeshua to be put into the het, the round rock rolled in front, tet, Yod held tight, okay. But that wasn't his end. He went in there in order to overcome with power and capacity containing it all. Ted is a full basket. Yod means my, and prevail over everything, even death. Kaf Lamed, hey, is the word for bride, or to come to a complete end. So a young lady, as a maiden, living in her father's house, is taught, grows up, learns some things, gets a personal being, and then comes to an end when she marries into being somebody else's wife. There's this concept. It's not completely done away because she's still the same person and she uses what she's become, but there's a certain finality to becoming something else. A major transition, you might say, that wedding day. That's the picture of Kaf Lamed Hey as the word for bride. This is Yod Kaf Lamed. It's translated temple, the place. There's no letter mem there, so it's not the place. So what I'm saying is to say, well, the next word is kadoshu. Well, kadosh means translated holy, sacred, set apart. His unique personal essence of absolute power and capacity. And then when it says hush, hey Samik, well, we've talked before, the letter Samik is the equivalent of the menorah in the Mishkan pattern. It's the equivalent of Yom Teruah, the blowing of trumpets in the Moedim. But the word hey Samik means hush, quiet, or silent. A derivative spelling, hey Samik Vav Aleph Hey, means camouflaged. Why would hey Samik mean silent if it's also Yom Teruah, the blaring and proclaiming with trumpets? Because it's both sides of what's in the middle. What's in the middle? Camouflaged. Camouflaged. What's camouflaged? It's a synonym with Bet Gimel Dalet. What's been camouflaged? Mem, Pei Nun Yod Kaf. Mem is the mechanism. Pei Nun Yod is face, but it's that which turns, and the Kaf suffix means you or yours. It's camouflaged what he presented to us as being his people, all the earth. Wait a minute, is this saying that he has completely hidden his power, his kadoshness, camouflaging it from what was apprehensible to everybody else on the planet except his people? Well, where is it? It's in these letters. If you go on to Habakkuk 3:9, Ayin Resh Yod Hey. Well, the word Ayin Resh is alert or vigilant. Ayin Resh Hey or Ayin Resh Yod is to be naked, laid bare, exposed, or shame. The next word is Tav Ayin Vav Resh. So whenever you get one word and a derivative word, it's like if the word Shema or Shemer with another spelling, if it's like really take heed or really pay attention or really watch. Ayin Vav Resh means naked. Mem Ayin Resh Hey, to look at a derivative, is attached, connected, and cave. So there's this female and male, both parts of that. But what is the word really? Mem Ayin Vav Resh. Resh, again, a derivative spelling using in the dictionary, awakening, arousing, stimulating, exciting, and alarm clock. You know, you're fast asleep in a dream and it reminds me, somebody asked about the pork heater video, and Sally found it. Maybe she could make it available. You'll see what I mean, why I'm mentioning the alarm clock right there at the very end. But maybe you could put it up in the chat room. Anyway, the point is, Lynx actually did a lot of work on that, just to give him some kudos, some credit for that. A fellow by the name of Lynx. Anyway, so here you have this idea of vigilant, paying attention, alert, exciting, stimulating, and then it's kuf shin tav vav. Well, kuf shin tav is bow, B-O-W, like a bow and arrow. We've talked about that word before, but tav can be the suffix letter having to do with kuf shin hey, which means stiff, difficult, rebar, straw, just you can't eat it, you can't bend it, it's unflexible. It's to behave cruelly or to be unintelligible. So this is like, can't understand you. So you look at these three words and it's like laying bare or exposing and stimulating or wakening up to, we can't understand your cruel, it's unintelligible, shin bet ayin vav tav. Well, shin bet ayin is the word for seven. It's the word for vow, to swear a vow, take an oath, satisfaction or satisfy the vow, but it's also to be cursed if you don't keep the vow. They say it's the satisfying the tribes, the way they translate it, but the word for tribes here they have is mem tet vav tav. But if you look at mem tet, it means perversion of justice, bent, inclined. Shin tet is insane or deviate or fool. Tet vav is the word for bed or downward or stretch out. Mem tet aleph is arrive at, listen to. Tet vav is the word for spin or yarn, which you use to spin with, or a web, like the one who spins a web might be a spider. So you could say, Habakkuk here, chapter 3, verse 9, is saying something about Elohim, the big, ugly, scary monster god of the Old Testament, like this nasty spider who can't be satisfied, and he's got these curses that he flicks on the whole world, but especially upon his people. And I say that because that movie, the play, Fiddler on the Roof, the most horrible line of that entire dramatic presentation is where Tovia sits there and says, I know we're the chosen people, but can you choose somebody else for a while? Well, I know that's a heartfelt expression from somebody that's been holocausted and pogromed. What a rotten situation. Can you choose somebody else for a while? Please choose me. Please choose us. Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel, please choose us. We will walk in your ways. And you will treat us according to the vow that you swore, like it says. And what could not be comprehended for nearly 3,000 years is that the people saying, we don't know why he does. I mentioned before, it was Holocaust Memorial Day. I was up in Idaho a few years back, and they were telling some stories of the Holocaust. And I said to this one guy, Jews, I said, do you Jews talk amongst yourselves? And do you talk about why did your God abandon, forsake, allow this Holocaust? Do you ever talk about that? Do you know why it happened? He says, we don't have any idea. We have no idea. It says here the next word is Amer Selah, saying Samek Lamed Hey. Well, this word Samek Lamed Hey is Selah. Stop and think about it. It also means to make light of, like put it in a basket or put it in scales of balance. And what's going on here? Similar to the word ayin, weigh, balance, measure, determine exactly. But the word Selah also means asphalt paving or make a path, led, guided, lift up, trod down. How do you make a path? Get your machete, clear out the brush, get in there with tractors, bring in gravel, fill up the low spots, carve down the high spots, make a highway. It literally means exalt. Making a highway, similar derivative, Samek Lamed Lamed. And then if you look at Samek Lamed Mem, you get the word for ladder or modulate music, which is to say, raise it up. You have one musical note and you kick it up, and then you kick it up, then you kick it up. So it's like going up a ladder. It's also the word salmon. Interestingly enough, Samek Lamed Mem Vav Nun, one who elevates, escalates. But it also Samek Lamed, like picture a treble clef, is to curl or trill or to exalt, fine lace, vine tendrils, to make something wonderful and beautiful, decorating. Those who do hair and put in braids, it's very similar to the word gadol. Stop and think, what did Yahweh say? He swore a vow. We swore a vow. Our ancestors swore us into a vow. And I wasn't born Jewish, but I choose to take on the identity of Israel, to be his people. Then the next word, nun he resh vav tav, nahar, is the word rivers, shine, beam, flow, stream. The next word, tav, bet kuf ayin, cleave, split, break open. There's that word for the furrow again, like the word boker. It's bakah, which is the word for valley, but it also means expert, learned, skilled, breakthrough, assault, take by storm, and then the word earth. So the simple reading is like rivers, like if you have a flash flood and the river cuts through and just rips open the earth, forming, some people say the Grand Canyon in Arizona was formed over thousands, perhaps millions of years. Somebody said it has the same from a high elevation. You can look down and see it's the same shape as a plasma discharge, and it might have been cut in 15 minutes when it was either Mars or Venus, was probably Mars close to the Earth. Immanuel Velikovsky talks about this, and with plasma shot this pattern into the face of the Earth that then washed out in the Colorado rivers down in the bottom of it. But 15 minutes or 60 million years. That same, whether it's a river flowing or light like plasma beaming, those who learn Yahweh's vow will assault the earth like a storm. We're the stormtroopers. What is the emunah? What is the faith? To have the mind of his people, trusting his words as if there was no other reality. Verse 10, Habakkuk 3, Resh Ayin Vav Kaf, Resh Ayin Hey, see, perceive, allows to understand, Vav suffix, then you as the final suffix, he has allowed you, he allows you to comprehend. Yod, Chet Yod Lamed Vav, Chet Yod Lamed, like the word Heil, like the Germans would say Heil Hitler. Military, wait, hope, whirl, dance, writhe, anguish, perform, strong, successful, surrounding wall, encircling. It's also to give birth. Allowing to understand, like one writhing to give birth, the mountains, but actually, Hey Resh is also pregnant. The exalted, the mountains, one fully a term of pregnant, then Zion Resh Mem is the word floated, streamlined, flood, current, heavy rain, poured forth violently, torrent, and sweep away, water, mem yod mem is the next word, then the word ayin bet resh, Hebrew, crossover, transfer, natan, give or teach. Teach Hebrew. It will basically, like bringing to birth, like this flash flood torrent, sweep away like a strong military tehom, deep of bliss, but tohu vebohu, formless and void, the formlessness of kolo, his voice. His voice, what did Yahweh say? I don't know, he was talking in some foreign language to people a long time ago. The formlessness, the essence of his voice being lost into the abyss is made Rome, Resh Vav Mem, high exalted, elevated, magnified greatness, removed from where it was, high and lifted up. And then the word Yod Dalet Yod He Vav, Yadi Hu, Yod Dalet is hand, strength, powered. Dalet Yod is sufficient and enough. And then Nun Shin Aleph, lift up and carry. It would be hard to find more extreme words than what's written here. To understand who Yahuwah is and what he said, is the power sufficient for his hand to reach up and pull us out of any situation? It doesn't matter what the giants are saying. It doesn't matter the plans of the World Economic Forum or the Illuminati or any of the other people who think they're going to take over this place. Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel, Yahuwah Zavot, Kanash Shamayim Ve'eretz, the maker, thus the possessor of heaven and earth. He's just been waiting for the people to have the amunah, the faith, the faithfulness, the vision captured in their brain. Quote Simon and Garfunkel there for a moment. What did he say? What are we supposed to be doing? Who are we if we are his people doing his things? And so for him to implement, to cause, to allow the satanic adversarial position of, for 2,000 years, the church, and 1,000 years before that, since the days of David, through the monarchs of Israel and Judah, to ruin the entire nation with Elohim Achrim and disbelief and different ways. Habakkuk chapter 3, going down to verse 17 and 18, even when WTF hits the fan, in Yahuwah I will rejoice. Yahuwah is my strength. That's the upshot of chapter 3. Now, there's one other thing to show you, which I'm not going to elaborate right now. We'll do it another week. See if you can wrap your mind around this, a little like a homework assignment. Chapter 3 is Habakkuk's prayer. That's the end of the chapter. There's just 3 chapters in Habakkuk. It says, a prayer of Habakkuk the prophets for erroneous utterances. It's like, what? In order to correct where we were wrong, he starts off saying, "Oh Yahweh, I have heard your news. I was afraid." It says in brackets of impending exile. Anytime, just so you know, if you have a KJV, if they put something in italics, those words aren't there. It's the publisher thought this is so obscure, nobody knows what it means. I'll put that in to guide you on the right path. In the brackets here in Stone's Tanakh, they do the same thing. I have heard your nose. I was afraid. So they put of impending exile. Oh, that's what Habakkuk was referring to. Those words don't exist. It's just the publisher's attempt at guidance. Whether they're right or wrong, I'm just saying, you have to make up your own mind. But to say, I heard your news and I was afraid. Okay, well, there's the Aleph. Well, there's a bunch of stuff written here. Let's see if there's an alphabetic letter sequence. Oh, Yahweh, in the midst of years, keep your accomplishment alive. In the midst of years, make it known. Well, why? Is there something hidden? There's something that's kept abated, retarded, held back? Well, that's like the letter Bet in Daniel 12:4. Hide the words and seal the book till the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, knowledge shall increase, but just keep it there in reserve. So if that's kind of like this Bet thing, then you have, in wrath, remember to be merciful. It's like, listen, even if you have to do this, please remember to, don't forget us. It's like, keep that tether. Well, there's this gimmeling concept. Elohim came from the south. That word south is Tav Yod Mem Nun, but Yemen, Yod Mem Nun, means right hand, the Holy One, the Kadosh Elf from Mount Paran. But what does Paran mean? Pei Aleph Resh is headdress, ornament, adornment. Picture a Native American feathered headdress with bows. Good picture of that. Stop and think about it. Selah. His glory, his kavod covered the heavens. His praise filled the earth. There's something about this presentation, his entrance. That would be the Dalit. Aglow was like the light, like rays of light. Well, that's like this emanating, hey, it's like, well, boy, this is, you could run the alphabetic letter sequence here. I'll stop with that. At the very end, to the conductor, with my songs, it's just kind of the tav of, so it's like, see if you can fit the alphabetic letter sequence throughout Habakkuk 3. There was in verse 5, it says, in verse 4, Vav Nun Gimel Hey. Well, Nun Gimel Hey means shine bright or to revise or correct a text. Well, remember, Nun is the prefix of putting into action. Hey Gimel Hey. And I'm trying to show you how to use the word, how to analyze the text. Hey Gimel Hey, the word Hagah means to navigate, steer, helm, steering wheel, rudder, to ponder, to meditate, like Selah, and to spell words phonetically. So Nun Gimel Hey, to correct the text, is go back and look at what he said with understanding what the words and letters mean. They're telling us here, Habakkuk 3:4, to do exactly what this study is, which is exactly what the problem was with Martin Luther, the Diet of Worms, with the guy that was popping off at the mic. I'm saying that anybody can tell you what do these things say, and if you don't know how to read the language, how do you argue with them? But if the letters mean something because they're correlated to Yeshua's gospel narrative, the first 10 letters, he came from heaven to earth, born of a woman, and put to the crucifix. In the tomb, 3 days and 3 nights, Kaf Lamed, Mem Nun, Samakai and Pei, Zadi resurrected. Kuf hung around for a while and head up and coming back, Reshin Tav, to gather up his betrothed, the Aleph Reshin Tav. There's the story. Use that to fix the meaning of the letters. They're correlated to the Moedim. There's a story in the Moedim. They're not just the holidays, but if we don't keep the feast, the holidays, the Sabbath day, we're out of it. We're out of the game. We're sitting on the sidelines. So why does the church intentionally change his name, change the day, change the Moedim? It's kept us out and away from his pasture, his chet, his playing ground, his treasure box this whole time. Revise the text. Kaor, like light. Tav He Yod He. It will exist. Kuf Resh Nun Yod Mem. Horns. Kuf Resh Nun. Kuf Resh Aleph. Learn how to read Kuf Resh Nun. The Kuf Resh, to be precious, dear, cool, raised to a higher regard, strength, power, glory, might, resources, shining, radiant splendor. Mem Yod Dalet Vav. Something immediately, at once, at hand of his. His stuff is immediately at hand when we go back and revise the text. And there, Veshem, Chet Bet Yod Vav Nun. Well, Chet Bet, remember I said like the bosom what you hold dear? Chet Bet Bet means to hold, Chababi, hiding place. Ayin Zion Hey is the last word of that sentence, which, well, Ayin Zion, well, that's just goat, glory, splendor, fortress, strong, fierce, mighty. Hey, made evident. It's the hiding place where he's kept the glory of his splendor reserved for those of his people at the time, at the place, with the heart to return to what he said. And then the next verse 5, Lamed Pei Nun Yod Vav, belonging to it. Belonging to what? Going back and correcting the text by spelling the words. Yod Lamed Kaf, Laka is to walk. He will walk. He who? Those of us who are doing what he said. Go back, look what he said, and walk accordingly. Dabar, word as stipulated. Vav Yod Zadi Aleph, publish, export, exactly what these videos are. We're doing this. And then here's this word, Resh Shin Pei, flame, firebolt, bird of prey, plague, pestilence, inflamed, emit sparks. Wham! Lamed, Resh Gimel, Lamed, Yod Vav. Well, remember, Hugo was saying last week at the end, the word regal, feet and legs. But it's not just the object of your foot, it's what your foot does. Your foot walks. Going back to he will walk. So you look in the dictionary and it says custom, habit, and tradition, to do something frequently. As we walk and make it our custom, habit, and tradition, doing what? What he said. Sit down on Shabbat. Don't walk. That's the custom and the habit which will make your feet like emitting sparks, fire bolts. Why has none of this happened yet in world history? Because until 2010, we were under the envelope of what he said 7 times 390. Leviticus 26 coupled with Ezekiel chapter 4. If you don't do the math, if you don't look back and see those, you'll never see it. So nobody knew. 2010, Assyria conquered the northern kingdom in 721 BC. But what time of the year and where do you count the days? Is a year change in the spring and in the autumn? And it's like, it was somewhere around then. You can find the exact day if you want. What I'm saying is you can go back and look at this. Now, here's another incredible thing. Let's look at Nahum for a moment. Chapter 1, verse 2. Nahum. Elkona Nakom Yahweh. Nakom Yahweh ve'Baal Chama. We talked about this verse last week. Nakom Yahweh la Zario ve'Notar hu Ibio. Elkona, jealous, zealous, fanatical. Nakom is the word for avenge, take vengeance, revenge, vindictive. He says that 3 times here. And then the word notar is navigate, steer, very similar to Haggah and Naga, and it means notary, sailor, watchman, guard, vindictive person. It's like he keeps driving into our minds that he will not let this thing go. Verse 3 of Nahum, chapter 1. Yahweh Aleph Resh Kaf. Well, the word Aleph Resh Kaf, similar to Ayin Resh Kaf, sounds just like Eric, but it means long drawn out, long-winded, talkative. But it also means to drag something. And then the word Afim, Aleph Pei Yod Mem. Well, Aleph Pei is nose. Long nose. Afim, is that plural? He's got more than one, like elephant with numerous trunks. Interesting. Somebody had up on their Facebook page a picture of interesting animals, and there was something, this weird looking nose and these 2 little like antelope horns, and it's called a saiga antelope, S-A-I-G-A. It's got this weird snout, a long nose. Made me think of that. Trying to think of little things to stick in your mind when you see the word long noses, hey! But the word Aleph Pei also means to be drawn, enduring. Aleph Pei is wrath and anger, but it also means to be characterized. So he is characterized intentionally himself as long wrath. When he gets an attitude, he's going to keep the attitude, or it's going to take a long time before he gets the attitude. Either way, the next word is va gedol chok, kaf, chet. Gadol is the word similar to Samic Lamed, which means festive, great, magnificent, wonderful, trilled, ribboned, festooned. Kaf het, like the word cock, like a rooster, cocky, the attitude, vigor, strength, might, power. And then vav nun kuf hey. Well, this word avenge, take vengeance, revenge, and vindicted was nun kuf mem. Nun kuf means pure, innocent, or guiltless. This is vav nun kuf hey. So he chooses to not hold someone responsible or to impose guiltlessness, absolves of guilt. Well, wait a minute. He can't, if he's this lawmaker, he can't just arbitrarily decide to absolve somebody of guilt. That's not just. It's whimsical. I mean, if he's the monarch, he's allowed to do that. But come on, in America, we're known as a democratic republic. I mean, it's a republic. It's not a democracy. A republic means ruled by law. Democratic means the voice of the people, so the majority rules. You get more votes. You get to impose a new reign of jurisdiction. But no, he can change laws, but it's always ruled by law. So if Yahweh is this lawgiver, he can't just whimsically, arbitrarily, okay, I'll give you a break this time. How does he get away with that? There's something to that. Nun kuf hey means innocent, guiltless, or absolves of guilt. But then it goes right on to say, lo, lamed aleph, not he will, yod nun kuf he. He absolves of guilt, but he will not absolve of guilt. Yahweh, that's who he's referring to. Very important sentence here. Bet samik vav pei he. Besufa. Sufa. That's like the word Yosef. It's like the word sofa, that which absorbs the couch you sit on and pulls coins out of your pocket and popcorn out of your bowl. The word suf, like Joseph, like the word sif is swordsman, and it means accumulate, come to an end. It's also storm and tempest. Basufa means come to an end, or cause a storm, or absorb, like the Sea of Reeds. Yom Suf is what absorbed all the Egyptian military into the bottom. The next word is and, bet, and then in the condition of Samik Ayin Resh He. So Samik Vav Pei is bringing something to an end in a storm. Samik Ayin Resh, Sair, that means consider, reckon, assess, value, measure. Cleave, split, there's that word again, to look at something and make a distinction between this and that, like a furrow boker cutting this side, and you got two different factions of heresy and truth. Imagined horrible, hairy goat, like a storm, like you see this long-haired goat, and it's like, oh, this picture of like kind of the face of some of these satanic worshiper guys with the goat, you know, the Baphomet thing. Calculate, and Shin Ayin Resh Resh means to scandalize. So here it says, Yahweh is long-nosed, incredible, magnificent strength, and he absolves of guilt. But who he will not absolve of guilt is one who brings to an end or considers horrible, Derico, his derek, his way, his mode. For the last 2,000 years, and especially brought to bear with the diet of worms with Martin Luther there, what is Yahweh's way? Detestable practices of the Jews. Really? You're going to call Yahuwah's custom. The word derek is custom, way, mode, manner. Detestable practices of the Jews, and so you're going to impose Christmas, Easter, and Halloween and the venerable day of the sun god Mithra as the holy day of worship? Really, you're going to lie for 2,000 years to all the people that want to love God and enjoy him forever? You're going to lie to them and impose customs of Sufa and Shara. And so Yahweh says he will not absolve that one of guilt and not hold him guiltless. This is Nahum chapter 1, verse 3. And then it says, Vav ayin nun nun, that word ayin nun nun. There's that word ayin nun again. First time it was respond or answer. Here it's clouds, to kick up clouds of dust. Aleph, pei, kuf. Embrace, entangled, wrestle. Kick up dust, pollen dust, prepare for combat. Resh Gimel Lamed Yod Vav, his feet, his custom, habit, and tradition. Who Yahweh will not give acquittal to is anyone who wrestles, preparing for combat against paying attention to his custom. The Sabbath day and the Moedim. That's what they are. His ways. For 2,000 years, this has been what it is. And plus the traditions of Israel and Yehuda with rotten kings for the 1,000 years after David. For 3,000 years, this has been what it is. And he says, he will not hold him guiltless. Verse 7, Tov Yahweh, the goodness and benefit of Yahweh, Lamed Mem Ayin Vav Zion, La Ma'uz. That's where you get the word moose, fortress, refuge, stronghold, splendor, glory, prestige, Beyom Zerah, on the day of oppression, conflict, pressing, binding, affliction. That word Zerah, like Zaydi Resh Resh, like the word Mitzrayim, on the day where they stop flowing the diesel, on the day that you can't buy food, on the day that they come and try to harass you, whatever might be coming, Yahuwah is the place of stronghold, fortress, refuge, Ma'uz, Veyada, and he who knows, Chasi, his refuge is there in it. Verse 7, chapter 2, verse 1 of Nahum. Behold, upon the mountains, my feet, of all the great headlines, the spectacular Hey Resh Yod Mem, the custom, habit, and tradition is to talk about the reality of Yahweh's ways being basar. That is the good news. That is the gospel. Meshamiah, hearing, proclaiming shalom, the fullness, the welfare, the benefit, the compensation that's contained within Chagi, my Chag feast celebration. Yahuda, celebrate your feast. Chagika, accomplish shalom, which means the message embedded within the feast. When Yahweh, this is talking about when Yahweh clears out our enemies. Nun, Dalet Resh Yod Kaf, Nadarik, your walk in his ways, because lo Yosef, ode ever again, Yahuda, traverse through you, worthless, wicked, Bet Lamed Yod Ayin Lamed, Kala, there's the word bride, completely assumed, Nun Kuf Resh Tav, calamity, stranger, people who regard Yahweh's ways with disgust. It's like, this hasn't happened yet. This is the future. So to say, oh no, the bad guys are going to take over, the bad guys are going to rule the world, the bad guys are going to impose a tribulation, Yahweh's people are going to get raptured if they believe in Jesus, and then the devil gets to run this place until the end. It's like, that's a different story. Just ain't going to happen. Not according to this. An interesting thing. We're talking numerous times here, there's different words for the word glory. Well, the basic word for glory is kavod. And in Exodus 33:18, Moshe said, Yahweh, show me your glory, would you? It's like, wait a minute. He's had the burning bush experience. Before that, according to the book of Nashua, when he was in Egypt, he actually was a great military general and conquered the people over in Cush, Libya area. So he had success, he had education, he lived in the palace of one of the greatest empires. He had the burning bush experience. He then came and had the Exodus experience. He had the Mount Sinai thing with the 10 Commandments. And then he still says, hey, would you please show me your glory? What the heck are you looking for, Moshe? But the interesting thing is here in Exodus 34, verse 6, it says, Vayavar Yahweh, the word Hebrew, Ayin Bet Resh, crossed over, passed by. So to say, I'm a Hebrew, well, what does that mean? Doesn't mean you're Jewish. It means you're of the 12 tribes, the lineage of Abraham, who claimed to be a Hebrew. Jonah claimed to be a Hebrew. There's something about claiming to be a Hebrew, Ivrit. Yahweh took up that handle, you might say. Exodus 34, verse 6. He passed by the presence of him, and he called, taught to read, Yahweh, Yahweh. He said the word twice. So people who say, oh, the name Yahweh is a Canaanite deity, it has nothing to do with the truth, it's some Egyptian thing, it's a blah, blah, blah. Listen, we have on record, Exodus 34, verse 6, where Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel, speaks his name twice to Moshe. Okay, that's good enough for me. Then it says, El Rahom, a deity of comfort and compassion. Resh Het Vav Mem, or Resh Het Mem. Ve Chanon, Het Nun Vav Non. Well, that's where you get the word for daisy, the flower. Graceful, darling, pleasant, charming. Long noses. Aleph Resh Kaf Afim. Well, that's just like Nahum chapter 3. And then he says, Ve Rav Chesed Ve'emet, multiplying the significance and importance of kindness and truth. So kindness, Emet, Chesed, Mishpat, and Zadokah are the four things he says all the time. Mishpat and Zadokah are the foundation of his throne. Here is long nose. It's all about kindness and truth. But interesting, when he uses the same phrase, it's like tie the two together. So you've got Nahum 3, who he says he absolves the innocent, but he won't absolve anybody who fights with him about walking in his ways. So what does he go on to say here? Verse 7 of Exodus 33, it says, Nun Zadi Resh. Well, it's an enlarged nun, one of those jots and tittles. Nun Zadi Resh means watch, keep guard, to guard from danger. Keep close, keep secret, blockade. Zadi Resh is enemy of foe or oppression. So he will not only guard from the enemy, he'll be the enemy of your enemy. Chesed, kindness, guard from danger, and then just the word chesed. Well, chet samik is a refuge. Samik dalet is a foundation. So somewhere foundationally, there's a refuge for who? Lamed Elafim, for thousands. Lamed Aleph, Lamed Pei Yod Mem. Pei Yod means my mouth. Lamed Pei Yod means according to. Aleph Lamed is not only El, meaning deity or power or strength, but in the motion toward. Aleph is the word for thousands, but Aleph also means taught, trained, and domesticated. It's also synonym with bet, taught, trained, domesticated of the house. So those who are domesticated of Yahuwah's house, how does he do things? What does he want us to do? Walk his derek, halakha, the yashar derek. Nun Shin Aleph, exalted, raise up, lift, carry, take. But it's also deceive, beguile, empty, vanity. It means to claim a debt. It's like to claim what debt? The sworn vow. Our ancestors swore a vow. Everything Yahweh says we'll hear where we do. They were imposed into this joint relationship. If they broke the vow, they get the curse. Leviticus 26 says it'd be multiplied by 7 if they don't come back. Ezekiel 4 says this is the vow, the curse imposed on the northern kingdom, 390 years, a day for a year of this gesture that he made. The 10 tribes of the north never came back, so it's multiplied by 7, 2,730. That vow. Yeshua picked up and carried the penalty for our willful sins. When Yahweh says he absolves of guilt, why should he? Why should he absolve of guilt? When I said that he whimsically, arbitrarily, no, it has to be ruled by law. So what Yeshua accomplished on that crucifixion stake somehow legally made that possible. See, every one of the sacrifices that he gave to the Levitical priesthood was for unintentional sin. When we did something by accident, well, here's a way to cover for it. So this is translated intentional sin. He starts talking about this in this verse 7, just like in verse 3 of Nahum 1. It says, Chesed le elafim, unto thousands, lift up and carry ayin vav nun, iniquity, guilt, punishment. Ve peshin ayin, folly, step beyond. Peshin yod ayin hey, negligence, sin, transgression, rebel, and revolting. To intentionally cross the line. Argue, fight, contend. We're not going to do it your way. Sofa, Samik Vav Pei, bring it to an end. Oh, it was nailed to the cross, done away with. We can do whatever we want. There's no more sin. Is there really? And Het Tet Aleph, sin, Vav Nun Kuf Hey, same word. Nun Kuf Hey is in Nahum 1 verse 3. Impose innocence and guiltless. Lo Yod Nun Kuf Hey, not holding innocent. Now he's given another stipulation here. Pei Kuf Dalet, holding to account, not absolved of guilt. The Ayin Vav Nun, the iniquity, guilt, and punishment. Fathers upon children's children to the third and fourth generation. What does that mean? The same word abot, fathers, aleph bet, means to have a desire or to strongly oppose. So it's basically this projected intention of your aim of what you want, what you don't want. The desires or cravings. The word for children, benim, bet nun, is to understand. Bet yod nun, bet nun hey is to build. So you could say what you build upon with your desire and your craving and your imagination becomes your doctrine. The third shalish, relay, mediate, link, chain, Shin lamed means inserted, removed, relaxed. The word for diarrhea, it's what you tolerate because of your invented doctrines. And then the word for resh bet ayin, is to fertilize, sprout, to copulate. It's like rains in the spring, which causes things to the pasture to regrow. It's basically facilitation, breeding custom to flourish. And so is he just saying, I'm reserving forgiveness and guiltless innocence for thousands, and those that hate me, iniquity to the fathers and children? Doesn't say those who hate me here. I think that's in the Ten Commandments. But what I'm saying is that if we invent doctrines based on the understanding that he is not Elkanah, ruthless, viciously taking revenge for people who hate his ways, we've got a different God. Running down to verse 14 of Exodus 34, it says, Ki lo, because no, tav, shin tav, chet, vav, hey. Can't find that word in the dictionary. Shin tav, het, it's not there. If you look at hey, shin tav, het, it means bowing down. Hey, shin tav, vav, het means dejected or depression. Just let it go. So this is saying he's not just going to let it go. Lamed, Aleph, Lamed, as a deity, Aleph, Chet, Resh, Achar. Now, the reason I'm bringing up verse 14 compared to verse 7 is verse 7 has an enlarged letter Nun. This word Achar has an enlarged letter Resh, after the Chet. Aleph, Chet, Resh, Achar, which means future, strange, next, delayed, to come late, as in the word Elohim Achrim, different, other, a deity of a different nature. Because, and then it says, Yahweh Kona Shamo, El Kona Hu. Yahweh, jealous, zealous, fanatical is his name, his reputation, and El Kona, the deity of jealous, zealous, fanatical, he certainly is identically with the same. But what about gentle Jesus, meek and mild? What about the guy that absolved us of all our sins and say, you don't have to regard my way. You don't have to regard my law. You don't have to regard my modim. You don't have to regard my Shabbat. It's an Elohim Achrim. Different character. This enlarged Resh, the Messiah figure. If he's a different character than Yahweh Elkanah, it's a different God that we better not acknowledge. Interestingly enough, just like in the Shema Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, has an enlarged ayin at the word Shema and an enlarged dalet at the word Echad. You put those together, ayin, dalet, it's a witness and a testimony. Here there's an enlarged nun in verse 7, an enlarged resh in verse 14. You put nun resh together, it's the word nar, which is where you get the root of the word menorah, and alephav resh, which is light, and nun hey resh, which is flow, stream, light, beam, which goes back to what he promised, that if we looked at revising the text and reading who he is, that was in Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 9, expert, learned, skilled, rip open the earth. That same word for expert, like the word chab, bet, kuf, like the word Sinai, erudite scholarship. I'm going to end with this. Again, we're trying to say, what's the upshot of the collection of these books of the minor prophets? It's the same message that can be found within the prophecies of the 12 tribes. It's the same message which can be found in the narrative story of Yeshua. He chose Israel. He gave Israel the truth. He gave Israel his promise, a sworn vow of covenant. Israel betrayed him. Israel went stupid. Israel got in lockdown, just like crucifying Yeshua, spending 3 days and 3 nights, spending nearly 3,000 years in the tomb, in the self-imposed coma for Israel. And then we get to come out of that incarceration, return to his words, revise the text, not listen to the false doctrines that he allowed to be imposed over us for all this time. And then he restores his favor and publishes it across the face of the earth. And it's spectacular, never seen before. The spectacular grandeur of Yahweh's presence with us, with his people, will be far beyond whatever spectacular, imposing regard the adversary, you might say, tried to intimidate the people of the world with the statue of Daniel 2, with their threats, with their chemistry, with their science, with their war machines, with their lies of science and history and religion and politics and financing, economics, the things that Yahweh has in the earth for our use of power, whether it's electricity or fuel for vehicles, the things that he has have been kept from us. Inventions that people have come with over the years, even 100 years ago, have not been allowed to be seen. There's all kinds of stuff available, just waiting for us to come back and walk in his ways, contradictory to the existing culture, which I believe is a picture of that stone in Daniel 2 hitting the feet, the custom, habit, and tradition of the Nebuchadnezzar's vision of the amalgamated kingdoms of the Babylonic head of gold, Media, Persian arms of silver, Greco guts, culture of the midsection, legs of Rome, iron, and then the democratic feet of iron mixed with clay. And for us to walk in his ways as a good son, his children doing the will of the Father, the desire, the Abba of the Abba. Aleph, Bet, Nun being stone. Hugo was talking about this the other day. That's what changes everything. It's like, but then where's the rapture? There's no need of a rapture. Yahweh's promise is that his people get to rule the earth. Remember, that stone becomes a mountain that fills the earth, will not yield its sovereignty to another. So where's the rapture? Where's the end of the world? It's a false doctrine according to what these books keep saying. All these books of the minor prophets. Okay, so with that, again, we've got a few minutes left. Turn it back over to you guys for a minute or two or something. Does anybody have anything they want to say? Go ahead and turn on your mics and cameras.
Can we pray?
Again, if we could just learn to believe that what he says, but understand that he is severe. And if he says, I'm going to do this, he will do it. And if you believe that my God is not going to do that, if you're of that ilk and you believe that kind of doctrine, then you're right. Your God won't do it, but the Elohim, the creator of the universe, will.
So it all boils down to, who is Yahuwah? Is he who somebody else tells you he is? But if you read these words and read this scripture that he's given us, you'll see who he is. You just have to choose which narrative, which characterization, which long nose are you going to run with for the one you look to and pray to and hope and trust. And that for saying the just will live by faith, according to what you believe, will be your salvation, because Zadikah's victory, deliverance, and salvation, not just righteousness.
And on that note, I got to go. So just going to keep this prayer short. Yahuwah, we lift you up. We are Israel. Thank you for waking us up. Keep us safe in the dispersion, and that we remember to always have our eye on you, and our hearts on you, and our minds on you, and doing your way. Yahuwah's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks again.
All right. Shalom, guys.
Thank you, Kurt.